Have you ever, really looked at a leaf? It seems so simple, right? But it's actually one of nature's most incredible little factories. Today, we're going on a journey deep inside one to explore the powerhouse process that makes pretty much all life on this planet possible: photosynthesis. And that's not an exaggeration, not even a little bit. Everything from the very oxygen you're breathing right now to the energy in the food you eat, it can all be traced right back to the silent, constant work happening inside a leaf. It is literally the foundation of our world. And just to give you a sense of scale, some leaves are teeny tiny, but the biggest ones on the planet, from the raffia palm, can get up to 25 meters long. That is longer than a bowling lane. But here's the thing. No matter the size, their core mission is exactly the same, and that's what we're about to break down. Okay, so here's our game plan for this journey. First, we'll look at the leaf's anatomy, but think of it like a high-tech solar panel. Then we're going to zoom way into its chemical assembly line. We'll even check out some really clever workarounds that certain plants have evolved before pulling it all back to see why this one process is so unbelievably critical for our survival. So let's start with the big picture, the power of a leaf. What is photosynthesis, really? Well, it's this incredibly elegant process. A plant takes three super simple ingredients: light from the sun, water, and carbon dioxide from the air, and turns them into two things: its own food, which is sugar, and the oxygen that we all breathe. Simple ingredients, absolutely extraordinary results. All right, so to really get how this works, we need to think of a leaf as a perfectly designed, solar-powered factory. Every single part has been fine-tuned over millions of years to do its job flawlessly. And the design, it's just genius in its simplicity. You've got the blade, that's the big, flat solar collector, angled just right to soak up as much sun as possible. It's attached to the plant stem by the petiole, and running all through it are the veins. That's the factory's plumbing system, bringing in water and shipping out the finished product. And this is so cool. The leaf's surface is covered in these tiny little pores called stomata. Think of them like the factory's loading docks and exhaust ports all rolled into one. And get this, they have these two little bouncer-like guard cells on either side that open and close to control exactly what comes in, that's the carbon dioxide, and what goes out, oxygen and water vapor. Now, if we could just slice a leaf in half and look at it from the side, you'd see these different layers, and each one has a vital job. Up top, there's a clear outer skin, the epidermis, that lets the sunlight pass right through. Right below that, you hit the palisade layer, and this is where the action is. It's jam-packed with the machinery for photosynthesis. Then you have a spongy layer with lots of air pockets for gases to move around, and at the very bottom, another layer of skin, which is where most of those stomata live. All right, you ready? We're going to dive even deeper. Inside just one of those palisade cells, we find the real engine room of our factory, this tiny little structure called a chloroplast. This is where the magic really happens. So inside the chloroplast, you've got chlorophyll. That's the famous green stuff that actually absorbs the sunlight. It's stored in these little disc-like sacs called thylakoids. And all of this is floating around in a jelly-like fluid called the stroma. So hang on to those two names, the thylakoid discs and the stroma fluid, because they are the two distinct stages of our chemical assembly line. And the process itself is this brilliant two-step system. First, you have the light reactions, which use sunlight to charge up these little temporary chemical batteries. Then you have the dark reactions, which are also called the Calvin cycle. They take the power from those batteries to actually build sugar molecules out of carbon dioxide. It's a perfect handoff from one step to the next. And this really breaks it down, right? The light reactions happen in those thylakoid discs. They take in light and water and spit out oxygen and those charged up energy batteries. Then the dark reactions happening out in the stroma fluid use that battery power to turn CO2 into sugar. The spent batteries are then sent right back to the thylakoids to get recharged, and the whole thing starts over. It's a perfect, self-sustaining loop. But what happens when conditions aren't so perfect? For a plant in a really hot, dry place, opening up its pores to get CO2 means losing precious water. And suddenly, our perfect little factory has a major, major problem. And that problem is called photorespiration. You see there's this key enzyme in the process, rubisco. Its one job is to grab carbon dioxide. But when CO2 levels get low and oxygen gets high, like when the plant has to keep its pores closed, rubisco can get confused and grab an oxygen molecule by mistake. This is a huge, costly error. It wastes a ton of energy and basically runs the factory in reverse. So, to fight this, some plants have evolved these absolutely brilliant workarounds. See, for plants, like corn for example, they separate the process in space. They grab CO2 in one type of cell, and then they pump it deeper into another cell to be processed, far away from all that distracting oxygen. But cam plants, like cacti, they do something even wilder. They separate the process in time. And these different strategies make these plants perfectly suited for where they live. C4 plants thrive in the heat because they've pretty much eliminated that wasteful photorespiration. But the most extreme adaptation has to go to cam plants, like cacti. To survive the desert, they only dare to open their pores at night when it's cool to collect CO2. They store it up, and then, during the scorching hot day with all their doors sealed shut, they use that stored CO2 to make their food. It is an amazing survival strategy. So we've gone from the whole leaf all the way down to the molecular level and back again. Let's zoom all the way out now and talk about the big picture. Why does any of this actually matter to you and me? Well, when you boil it all down, it comes to this. This single process is responsible for just about everything that keeps us alive. It generates the oxygen for every single breath you take. It creates the energy that forms the foundation of basically every food chain on Earth, whether you're eating a salad or a steak from a cow that ate grass. It is the engine of life. Just think about that for a second. It's this incredible direct connection. The energy that's in your body right now, powering your thoughts, was once light from the sun. It traveled 93 million miles through space, was caught by a tiny bit of chlorophyll in a leaf, and turned into the chemical energy that is now literally fueling your life. And that just leaves us with a final thought to chew on. For millions and millions of years, plants have been running the most efficient, widespread, and sustainable solar power operation you can possibly imagine. So as we work so hard to create our own clean energy solutions, maybe the best inspiration, the most ingenious blueprint, has been growing right here in front of us all along.